In the heart of the Great Depression, a shadow fell upon Macon County, Alabama, that would stretch for 4 decades. The United States Public Health Service, known as the PSS, initiated a study that would become a symbol of profound ethical betrayal. Its official title was the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male. The study's stated purpose was to observe the natural progression of untreated syphilis. To achieve this, researchers recruited 600 African American men. Among them, 399 had already contracted syphilis before the study began. The remaining 201 men served as a healthy control group. These men were impoverished sharecroppers, largely illiterate and desperate for any form of assistance. They were lured into the study with the promise of free medical care. This promise was a calculated and cruel deception. The men were never told they had syphilis. Instead, they were informed they were being treated for bad blood. Bad blood was a vague, colloquial term used to describe a variety of ailments, including syphilis, anemia, and fatigue. This deliberate ambiguity was a cornerstone of the study's methodology. The treatments provided were nothing more than placebos. Men were subjected to painful and dangerous spinal taps. Researchers told the men these procedures were special free treatments. In reality, the spinal taps were purely diagnostic, performed to track the neurological effects of the disease. Promise of free meals was another powerful incentive for participation. For men struggling to feed their families, a hot meal was a significant draw. The PSS also offered to cover burial expenses. This morbid incentive ensured that researchers could perform autopsies to gather final data on the disease ravages. A key figure in maintaining the trust of the men was Nurse Eunice Rivers. She was an African-American nurse from the Tuskegee Institute who served as the study's local liaison. Her presence lent a veneer of legitimacy and familiarity to the project. She knew the men by name, transported them to appointments, and became a constant in their lives. Her role remains a subject of complex historical debate. The study was initially planned to last only 6 months. However, it continued for an astonishing 40 years. The most egregious ethical breach occurred in the mid-1940s. By 1947, penicillin had become the standard, effective treatment of syphilis. The discovery was hailed as a medical miracle. The researchers in the Tuskegee study knew about penicillin. They made a conscious and deliberate decision to withhold it from the men. Their goal of observing the disease's full course overrode their duty to heal. PSS actively prevented the men from receiving treatment from other sources. They provided local doctors with a list of the participants' names. They were instructed not to treat these men for syphilis. When some participants were drafted for World War II, the military diagnosed them with syphilis. The study intervened, asking the draft board to exclude their subjects from treatment. The betrayal was systematic and comprehensive. Over the years, the men suffered terribly. They developed severe health problems, including tumors, heart disease, and paralysis. Many went blind or insane. They unknowingly passed the disease to their wives. Their children were born with congenital syphilis. The study's continuation was periodically reviewed by PHS officials. Despite the availability of a cure, they consistently voted to continue the observation. The perceived scientific value was deemed more important than the subjects' lives. This rationale was a profound corruption of medical ethics. The study's existence was not a complete secret within the medical community. At least a dozen articles about it were published in medical journals over the decades. However, these publications failed to provoke widespread outrage or intervention. The silence of the broader medical establishment was a form of complicity. He sent a letter to the director of the Division of Venereal Diseases. His concerns were formally expressed and recorded. The PSS convened a committee to review the study. Ultimately, the committee, which included some of the study's original architects, voted to continue it. Buxton's dissent was overruled and ignored. He did not give up on his quest for justice. A few years later, Buxton leaked the story to a friend who was a reporter. That reporter was John Heller of the Associated Press. On July 25, 1972, Heller's explosive story broke. It appeared on the front page of the New York Times. The public reaction was one of immediate shock and outrage. The story of the Tuskegee study became a national scandal overnight. The decades of secrecy were finally at an end. Within hours of the story's publication, the study was officially terminated. Congressional hearings were swiftly convened. Senator Edward Kennedy presided over the hearings, his face a mask of indignation. PSS officials were called to testify and defend their actions. Their justifications crumbled under public scrutiny. The aftermath of the revelation was immense. In 1973, a class action lawsuit was filed on behalf of the study participants. The case was settled out of court for $10 million. The settlement was divided among the survivors and the families of the deceased. As part of the settlement, the U.S. government promised to provide free lifetime medical care to the survivors. This promise extended to their wives, widows, and children affected by the study. By the time the study was exposed, the human cost was staggering. 28 men had died directly from syphilis. 100 more had died from related complications. 40 of their wives had been infected. 19 children had been born with congenital syphilis. The scandal led to major reforms in laws governing research on human subjects. The National Research Act was passed in 1974. This act created the National Commission for the Protection of Human Subjects of Biomedical and Behavioral Research. The Commission's work led to the Belmont Report. The Belmont Report established 3 core principles for ethical human research: respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. It also mandated the establishment of institutional review boards, or IRBs. IRBs are now required to review and approve all federally funded research involving human subjects. The legacy of the Tuskegee study is one of deep and lasting mistrust, particularly within the African American community. It created a justifiable fear of the medical establishment. This mistrust has had tangible public health consequences. It has contributed to disparities in healthcare and lower participation in clinical trials. The phrase Tuskegee effect is now used to describe this phenomenon. For decades, the government offered no formal apology. The survivors lived with the physical and psychological scars, waiting for acknowledgement. Finally, on May 16, 1997, the nation took a step toward reconciliation. President Bill Clinton hosted the 5 remaining survivors at the White House. He issued a formal, unequivocal apology on behalf of the United States government. We can stop turning our heads away. We can look at you in the eye and finally say on behalf of the American people, what the United States government did was shameful, and I am sorry. Neshanika. The apology was a powerful and long overdue moment. It acknowledged the profound betrayal of trust. The story of the Tuskegee Syphilis Study is now a mandatory part of medical ethics education. It serves as a permanent, cautionary tale. It reminds researchers and doctors that scientific curiosity can never justify the violation of human dignity. The study's dark shadow highlights the vulnerability of marginalized populations. It underscores the absolute necessity of informed consent. Informed consent means that participants must fully understand the risks and benefits of a study, must be free to choose to participate without coercion or deception. The men of the Tuskegee study were denied this fundamental right. Their trust was not just betrayed, it was weaponized against them. The legacy is a painful but vital lesson for all of humanity. It is a story of racism, classism, and the failure of institutions. The researchers viewed the participants not as patients, but as specimens. This dehumanizing perspective allowed the atrocities to continue for so long. The men's poverty and lack of education made them easy targets. They lacked the power and resources to question the authorities. The study's name is forever linked with the town of Tuskegee, Alabama. This is despite the fact that the Tuskegee Institute itself was not the primary institution running the study. The name persists, a shorthand for the ultimate betrayal by the medical profession. The National Center for Bioethics in Research and Healthcare was established at Tuskegee University. This center was created as part of the presidential apology. It serves to continue the dialogue on ethics and race in medicine. The center works to transform the legacy of the study into a positive force for change. The voices of the men themselves were silenced for too long. In later years, some survivors shared their stories. Their testimonies reveal not bitterness, but a profound sense of sadness and betrayal. They had placed their faith in the government and its doctors. Faith was met with a cold, scientific detachment that valued data over human lives. The secret truth of the Tuskegee study is not just about a single experiment. It is a mirror reflecting the capacity for systemic failure and moral blindness. It forces a continuous and uncomfortable examination of power, race, and ethics. Remembering Tuskegee is an ethical imperative. It ensures that the 600 men who were wronged are never forgotten. Their story is a permanent warning against the arrogance of power. It is a solemn promise to future generations. Never again